Hello and welcome to Mike's Shop Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today I have a very special guest. It is the second guest I've had on this channel, and it's the famous Brian Julius, if you will. So, thanks for coming on, Brian.
Always a pleasure, Greg.
So I've known Brian for quite a while. We worked together while at Enterprise DNA. We were both at Enterprise DNA for a while. That's how I got to know Brian. And we've been kind of buddies and pals ever since. And he's been a big proponent of the no calculate approach. And he was the very first patron on my Patreon account for DAX for Humans, the book that I'm writing on the no calculate approach. So appreciate that, Brian.
I was actually the first two. I screwed up the registration. I registered twice, so I'm your first two your first two fans on that one.
Well, and also you've been gifting a couple on the Advent calendar for the no calculate Advent calendar and that, and you've been
Yeah,
I
yeah, we've given away. We've done drawings the last 2 weeks. We got two more to go with with Ruth's contest. Her daily challenge got 2 more weeks on. So yeah, we're
That's
giving away every
awesome.
Friday. We do a kind of a retrospective of the problems of that week and look at no calculate issues. And I mean, the funny thing about it is the no calculate has just been crushing that challenge in terms of that pattern that you have, that kind of the pattern to solve all problems. It's solving every problem, and it's not leaving a lot to talk about. It's making it too simple.
And for those of you that don't know, Brian is the person that coined the no calculate. So he's the individual that coined that term, the no calculate approach. To I just For me it was just how I write my DAX, and then Brian came along and I think I think I covered it under DAX counterculture, right? It was kind of the name I kind of came up with it, but it kind of covered an array of subjects. But it was the don't use calculate kind of stuff that really kind of caught on from all that.
But it seemed to draw a little bit more positive attention than calculate.
That's it's a much better term, Brian. I suck at marketing. Let's just put it that way. I'm terrible at that. So I wanted to have you on, Brian, because I know you've been doing a lot with AI stuff, and I want you have a great process for like how you can have ChatGPT write your DAX and stuff. But also I know you've been following like the theme generator. I do have another. I have because of you. I have this bonus theme generator coming out on December 5th. So today's December 3rd. So December 5th, I've got the bonus episode where I go in and use ChatGPT to write the theme generation for me, and it's actually pretty cool. And it's interesting in terms of I didn't score it in the bonus in the video, but maybe we can score it here. I went through and scored it on my Excel spreadsheet. I think it came out pretty well, and then maybe I can talk to you and you can we can adjust and tweak it. But it actually performed pretty well. I was able to get prompted for the colors by using a descriptive phrase, just like with a BIBB. And then I was also able to tell it, hey, I want matrix headers and values to have this font size and things like that. So it actually was even deeper. I could go in deeper than just having it just do the colors in that. So I thought that was pretty, and it just worked.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's pretty crazy about it is you can give it a really detailed prompt. I mean, you can say check the contrast, check for all three types of major color blindness, kind of use the color wheel and you know give me the proper complementary colors. I mean, it can do a tremendous amount, just off of kind of narrative prompt.
Well, you got more detailed than I did because I was just like, hey, give me a theme based on this descriptive phrase for the colors, and then make this that in the other. I didn't even go into that level of detail. So you should get a job as a prompt writer, Brian. Start posting these prompts out to a GitHub repository somewhere.
Well, I mean, funny you mentioned that. I was just talking to Sam McKay last night, and he's actually he's really gone deep into the AI stuff too, but in a different way. Like I've really kind of kept it primarily to data analysis, and Sam has really expanded his outlook out to development, kind of app development, web development. And so he's actually built using these AI development tools, built this application that is basically kind of analyst hub for prompting. And it's kind of a community shared prompt library, and it's really cool. And so, I was thinking what I need to do is when he presents that, and I think it's within the next couple of days, um, is to take a lot of the prompts I've been doing and put it up on that site because it's really well organized. You can search by type, you can search by content, and so yeah, stuff's kind of coming together in a neat way.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know about that. I've been following him some of the stuff he's been doing with Lovable, and that's how he's been writing like
Yeah.
his web front ends. And it's like he was able to create like in a just a brief session, he was able to recreate the original Power BI web service, at least the front end of it. Nothing's wired together yet or whatever. But I've been joking about that online. I'm like, what happens when you can just like prompt ChatGPT to say, hey, write me a web service to where I can upload a PBX file and have it, show me the report, pages and be able to share it. Like it's like is it ever going to get to that level? And then what is Microsoft? Microsoft's pushing all of this AI stuff in regards to the Copilot and everything. It's like, what happens when you make it so easy for people to write software that it literally puts you out of business?
We were talking about the fact that, I think we may already be there, but it's not going to be far away where we're going to be able to just write um, custom visuals, custom connectors, just basically everybody be able to do that. And so, it's kind of like you'll have almost like a bespoke version of Power BI on, each person's desktop.
That's awesome, Bryce. You always, I don't know why your brain works better than mine. So that's great. I mean, that's an awesome idea. Like I just wrote for somebody a Monday.com connector. They wanted to be able to connect to Monday.com. There's no connector
I
for
saw
it.
that. Yeah.
So I went ahead and coded it for him, and he used like key authentication. And then somebody came and responded to that like, "Hey, I want one for Asana." And Asana has like I can go out there and sign up for a free account and everything, and they have a connector, but it requires an enterprise subscription. So they want one that uses the API, and he uses OAuth and all that. And I was looking there, I'm like, yeah, totally should be able to do that. I'm going to use ChatGPT this weekend. I'm going to see if it will write me the custom connector for Asana before or at least get me close and see what it can do before I go out and code it myself. Because I mean, it's probably 2 to 3 hours to write a custom connector. What I've found, and I'm getting better at it. And I'm actually followed the definitive guide to M. I follow my own chapter every time I write one of them. I'm like, okay, I got to remember how to do this. So that's a good idea, man. I really want to. I've never really written a custom visual. So maybe that'd be a good thing to try
That
too.
would be that would be a neat, I think that'd be a neat experiment.
Yeah, I'd like to see if I could write my own custom visual, and have offload the hard work to Chat GPT. That's a great idea.
So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's kind of like if you can think of it these days, you can at least try it, and oftentimes you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff Sam's been doing. He also did one where he used AI to create a podcast for him. And it had like different voice actors and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy. So it's amazing what you're able to do with it these days. All right, so to that point, Brian, I don't know if you want to share out your screen and kind of walk us through your process, or you want to walk me through the process on my screen. How do you want to do
Yeah,
it?
let's actually try walking you through it. You've got a tough one. It's kind of
Well,
an oddball case. It's a difficult problem. So I haven't actually tried this one yet. So we're kind of without a net, and we'll see how it
Well,
goes.
I have tried this one. I haven't gotten any satisfactory results yet, but this was one that came at me out of the forums. And the basic, and this is randomized, like all the tables are kind of randomized, but the idea behind it is I have orders that come in, right? And I'm using order number for my sorting. I don't have a date, but if we had a date, right? The idea is that okay, as the orders are coming in, so in a FIFO process, first in, first out, right? I want to fulfill the orders from the bins that have the most quantity in them and do that in order, right? And then move on to the next. So I should use all of the eights, right? And then move on to the sevens, then move on to the sixes. And so, like, for example, there's 34, so I'm going to use up like four of these bins and then, two in the next out of the next bin. So then you'll see like it uses L11, L3, L30, L31. So these all have 8 in them, right? And L7 is the last one that it uses. And so it's only using 2 out of that. So now it uses 6 of those to fill the next order. And then,
Mm.
8, you know what I mean? So does that make sense? Did I explain that okay?
It does. It does. That I think, one of the things is the way it sorts, that it's sorting kind of alphabetic rather than like L7 in the FIFO should be first in that second line. And
Yeah, and it's in the so FIFO orders too. So it's actually so here's the actual code for it. So it's not a trivial matter. There's a lot, there's quite a lot to it. But at the end, I'm sorting it by the bin, where I could sort it by the value, like A1 through, like where I generate the table one through whatever, the one through the count, whatever it is,
right.
right? So I don't know. I haven't come up with a good way of sorting it. I'll just
Well,
be honest.
well, well, let's give it a go, because here's what I'm thinking is the general methodology that I typically use, and it's it's a little bit kludgy because at this point O1P is not multimodal, so you can't throw anything but text at it. And so typically what I do is you have to extract the BIM file, kind of giving ChatGPT knowledge of the model and the measure. Well, in this case, you don't want to give it knowledge of the measure, because you don't want it to use that measure. So we can take that out, um, but you definitely want to give it full knowledge of the the tables, the columns, the relationships, and all that. And once it's got that, it typically writes really, really strong DAX. And what we can do is we can see if we can craft a descriptive enough prompt. The other thing we can do is kind of take the description that's in the forum post, and then we can take this table and we can throw that into 4.0, which is fully multimodal. And one of the things I've found is really helpful is to get 4.0, if you tell it to say, okay, here's the information I want to use to prompt an advanced text only AI model. Give me a comprehensive prompt that describes this problem fully. And it generally creates a really thorough prompt.
Interesting. All right. Well, what we'll do is then is we'll save this as order fulfillment 2 or something like that. And then I'll blast all the measures.
Well, let's actually take a screenshot of this first.
Well, it's going to change. The problem is it's going to change. That's the only. You know what? How about we just go ahead and go with it, and we'll give it the measures and
Okay.
see if it can see, because I've tried this with the measures. The only thing that I've changed since so these were some of the ones. These were some of ChatGPT's attempts that I did. So you can. I mean, it does write really nice code. The other thing I thought was interesting is that it seemed to adopt my style for naming variables, which I guess maybe that came out of the BIM file. Like, I looked at my BIM file, noticed all my vars had double
Right.
underscores in front of them, and it went ahead and did that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I have like this, I have several different attempts where it tried to do these. So maybe I'll clean those up, so it doesn't maybe get confused by its previous attempts. Yeah, the problem with running with a randomized data model is I can't compare them side by side unless unless I have them in the same model.
Yeah, I haven't found that it doesn't seem to just kind of read the measures in, just parrot the measure code back to you. It actually goes through and tries to solve the problem independently. So
I
I
think
just
I even tried to do that, Brian. I tried to make it. I think I fed it my code and said rewrite this measure, and it still didn't get it right. So I'm doing something wrong.
Well, I mean, this is a tough problem to describe, and my experience so far is, you know, I'm 10 for 10 on. I mean, you and I have been we've been kind of cataloging these really difficult measures, and kind of as they come up, I've been testing them and posting about them, and so far, O1P is undefeated. I mean, there have been a couple that it's taken it a number of cracks to get it, but um, it I haven't yet been able to throw anything at it that hasn't been able to solve. So I think with this one, the challenge is going to be describing the problem clearly enough.
Yeah, I think the only thing I changed from when I was trying this was I think these were bi-directional when I the last time I tr attempted this, and then I've got these set to single direction now. So
Okay. I think
it's
that
the
may
only thing
make
that's
it
changed.
easier.
Yeah. So okay, so I've got this saved. So walk us through. I know what you've already walked me through your process, but go ahead and walk everyone through your process.
Okay, so the first thing I do is go to external tools, and I usually just fire up the free version of Tabular. I'm a big fan of Tabular Editor 3. I know we kind of disagree a little bit on the utility of that, but um,
Oh no, I think Tabularis 3 is great. It's just I mean it's definitely priced for corporations to buy it for their employees. That's what I will say.
Um, yeah, I always just buy like a single user license, and I find in probably the first day or two of the year I get my money back on that. But um, the Tabular Editor, the free version, actually is really good for this particular thing, which is if you open your file and then you just do file save as, it'll save it as a model.bim file, and that has complete information about the data model, relationships, and measures. And that's
Oh,
just that just ends up being a JSON file. So you can just toss that right into 4.0. What I typically do is for O1P is I crack it open with Notepad plus plus, I don't know, or whatever your text editor that you use is, and then just copy that into the prompt for O1P.
all right, so there's the BIM file. I can copy that. All right, so I've got to get back to my ChatGPT window. I started a brand new chat. I
And
can
so
just
what I
paste.
typically say here is, here's the BIM file for a Power BI report that we're going to be working with. Tell me everything you can about the data model and relationships, just so you can kind of ground truth the fact that it's read the BIM file properly.
All right, so I definitely skipped this step. Oh, I guess I should have pasted it in.
It'll just tell you, yeah, just provide the file. There you go.
I got to remember to hit, was it Shift Enter or Control Enter versus Enter?
Shift enter.
Shift. Yeah, we have not rehearsed this, everyone. So we're flying blind on this one. So maybe we can clean this up in post or something. I don't know. Let's see what it has to say here. Inventory represents the inventory of all items across different locations. Yep. Sales orders contain sales orders for items, item codes, distinct list of item codes present in the inventory. Date table template. Oh, I didn't know I had it. I didn't even know I had a date table in there. I'm not sure which of those tables had a date column in it. Oh well. Or maybe that was like legacy or something.
So yeah, it certainly looks like it's read the data model correctly.
Yeah.
And okay,
Oh,
so
this is probably just because I have auto time intelligence turned on, or I
probably so.
happen to. I happen to for that one. Interesting. That's cool. So it goes through and all the. Oh wow! I mean, I know they've interesting. So I know there's a bunch of external tools for Power BI that go through and do documentation, but it seems like you could just feed the BIM file to it to GPT with that prompt and
Oh,
generate all the documentation you'd ever want.
let me actually show you. There's a there was a post we can actually pull it up later, but there was a post I did. Miguel Myers had that skateboard shop Power BI report that's kind of famous, and I fed the BIM file into that and said basically gave it the direction to create a full documentation report in PDF, and it created this 8-page documentation report that I would be more than happy to provide, something that comprehensive with any Power BI report I've ever done. It's probably better than any documentation I've ever provided with with a report. And it generated in like 2 minutes. It
That's
was like
awesome.
8 or 9 pages, and it was by section. It was well written. It was fully documented. It was beautiful. So yeah, you can use this incredibly efficiently for documentation.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we are everyone. We are using the ChatGPT 01 preview version of ChatGPT. Just that's the one you've been working with, right, Brian? That's been given.
Yeah, yeah. Now there's kind of rumor that they actually a couple of weeks ago they let slip for about 8 hours what looks like the production version, which is supposedly about 20% better. It's faster. It's a little bit smarter, and so that seems like it's going to be coming out any day. And what I've heard is that is marginally multimodal, that it'll handle images but not um, binary files and not audio and video the way 4.0 will. But even that,
Gotcha.
even images would be a big help.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so now this one, let's just go back to this real quickly and take a look at this. So sales orders. So I mean, I think it's pretty. Yeah. So sales order one has item code 8. So it has different item codes for different, yeah, different item codes, the quantity ordered. So that's interesting. I'm trying to remember this thing in terms of how I did. Oh, that's right, because then I had to go down to item code A1. That's right. And then all orders, item code A1, and then go through and fulfill it. That's right. Because then your locations, your inventory, they have location, they have an item code, and then what quantity they have. So, yep. Okay. So yeah, I remember this calculation is really hairy. If you try to run it against everything for every code, it won't make it.
Mhm.
It's not that efficient. There's a bunch of looping and turning, tables into text and then converting it, adding columns and then converting it back and a bunch of sorting, and it's a real nightmare of a problem. Let's put it that way for DAX to solve.
And this
Really,
this also uses a version of your path index.
oh yeah, yeah. It's at least this one does, right? So it's yeah. So you're it even uses calculate, so it must be some really early stuff that I did early on. But yeah, you can see the text bar where it's got concatenate X, and
Yep,
then it's
yep.
concatenating it up, and then by then it's doing the path length, and then generate series, path item, all that stuff. None of that's super efficient. I can tell you that right now. Anytime you're trying to do that sort of stuff with DAX, it is not efficient. But the importance of it is, in this case, is you need it to be able to sort by the quantity stored, right? You need to sort it
Right.
in the right order and then consume those buckets, as you go down, essentially. So the only way to guarantee sort order in DAX really is to do this crazy concatenate X, process, because concatenate X actually has a sort by feature.
Right, right.
So yeah, not a trivial DAX problem.
So I
Okay,
think,
so
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
What I was thinking is, what we may want to do is jump over, open another ChatGPT window and open up 4.0, and let's do some prompt engineering with 4.0, and
All
then
right,
kind of feed that final prompt in. So let's
sure, 4.0 right
there we go.
here. All right, what are we feeding into it?
What I would probably do is I'd probably start a new chat in 4.0.
All right,
And and then let's feed the BIM file back into that, and then also a screenshot, and and then kind of your best kind of narrative description um of the problem.
order fulfillment two. Okay. And you said a screenshot?
So let's do it. Let's kind of do it sequentially. So let's start off with the BIM and let's just say, here's a BIM file with the data model information from a Power BI report that we're going to be working with.
I could type today. This is getting to be somewhat meta here, Brian, using AI to generate the prompt for the next AI.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually the other day I had O1P debugging Claude.
That's nuts.
So yeah, this is pretty neat too, because this is where you can just toss the BIM file in as a binary and it'll figure out, exactly what it is and what the data model is. So okay, that looks like it's done fine.
Yep.
So now let's throw the screenshot.
I mean, of the report.
Yeah, of that page where you had the tables and the slicers.
All right.
Yeah, let's take a screenshot of that.
Oh, it's gonna do it from here we go. So like this.
Yep,
All right. And I can just paste that into 4.0, right?
exactly. Yep.
It'll be
And
nice
then
when 4.0p. Should I prompt it with anything or just
don't hit return yet. Hit shift return and then say that we are trying to craft a detailed prompt for a DAX problem that is going to be fed to an advanced text-only AI model. And we need your help with crafting a comprehensive prompt. And hit shift return on that.
all right?
So now the best thing to do is kind of as concisely and clearly as you can describe what it is, kind of the FIFO warehouse quantity problem that you're trying to solve.
All right, I'm gonna give this and so all right, you correct me if I type anything stupid here. Okay, so all right. We are trying to create a measure that fulfills orders from the sales order table in a FIFO manner with order number sorted ascending that uses the locations in the inventory table with the most inventory first. What do you think? Do I need to add
Um,
more to that?
so basically, before measure, just specify DAX measure because the funny thing is sometimes it will write in a language that it prefers if you don't specify.
That's a
Um,
good idea.
um, Yeah, I think we may want to clarify a little bit more that we want it to basically run down for that warehouse, basically run out the quantity of that and then keep going down the list until it fulfills the quantity for that order.
Measure should use the locations with the most quantity first until it runs out of inventory to fulfill the Sales, sales orders.
And then we can say this process, the outcome we want to achieve is represented in the screenshot attached.
All right.
And then say, shift return. Please provide, based on this information, please provide the best prompt you can for the text only AI model that we are going to use to try to solve this.
Hope it doesn't get its feelings hurt that we're not using it to solve this. All right, we
It,
ready to hit it?
it actually will sometimes give you the prompt and then it'll take a crack at it.
No.
I've had that happen.
All right, we ready to hit down on this
Let's
one?
fire it up and see what happens.
All right. And this is definitely not the process that I have gone through. I can tell you that in terms of it's been much more juvenile of prompts than this, and definitely not using AI to prompt an AI.
And you can see it creates a really nice structured prompt here. And so let's kind of go through that and see if we think it's accurate and comprehensive.
Goal: fulfill the orders and sales orders table in a FIFO first in first out manner by order numbers sorted in ascending order. Use inventory from the inventory table for the corresponding item code to fulfill the orders. Prioritize using inventory from locations with the highest available quantity first. Continue using the next location with the most inventory until order is completely fulfilled or inventory runs out. This is a way better prompt than I fed it. I can tell you that, Brian. When I was trying to solve this problem,
Yeah,
measure
this,
returns.
as I say, the AI does a really good job at crafting prompts. So if you give it the base information, it will often create a better prompt than you or I can.
Yeah, probably we'll have to take this out since we can't include a screenshot with ChatGPT o1 preview, but we can edit that out. Okay, I think this looks pretty good.
You know what we could do? There's something else we could do, which is what we could do is we could export if we really want to prompt the living daylights out of this, we could go back to that Power BI report and export the CSVs out of the visual tables and then provide those in the O1P as well. So instead of the screenshot, we could say, okay, this is CSV of the outcome we want to achieve.
Okay, I'm not going to do that. And the reason being is that that assumes that we had to go through all the work to create the answer in the first place.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yep. Yep.
And I'm trying to avoid that. I don't know how many hours I spent on that problem, Brian, when I first went through it. I think it was a whole weekend that I spent like racking my brain on how to solve the thing and coming up with a bunch of different ways not to do it before I finally came up with a way to do it. I mean, it's been years ago, so I don't remember.
That's fair. That's fair enough because there are certain problems where you may not know the DAX, but you can put the answer together in a table form,
Right.
just by you know by kind of grit and hard work, even though you don't have the DAX that produces that table.
So I'm going to get rid of this one. All right.
All
So
right,
we're
so
going to
let's copy that over and let's go back to the version that we've prompted already with the BIM file.
all right. Here we are.
All right,
I'm going to paste it in here.
yeah, let's see how it goes.
All right. Let's give it. I'm going to hit enter.
So wait, before you do,
Oh,
okay, that's all right. Well, let's see how it goes. Typically, what I like to do is I like to reference back and say, given what you know about the report and the data model, just to make sure that it pulls its knowledge on the BIM file. But
you're right.
we'll
Yep.
we'll steer it to do that if it doesn't seem to be doing it.
You know, it goes. I'm gonna be impressed if we get this the first time, Brian, because I think I gave it like 6 or 7 times. I tried it 6 or 7 times, and I was like, it just kept on. It gave all the DACs seemed to work. I think there was only one that where I plugged it in and the DACs didn't work, and it was something weird that it had done. But all the DACs worked. It just didn't give me the answers I was expecting. You know what we were missing? We were missing that we wanted the locations. And so I think what it gave us is this looks to me like this variable name means it's like the quantity. It's giving us the quantities that it wants. Let's just go ahead and plug it in and see what it does.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Let's
I
see.
think we forgot to specify that we want the actual names of the locations.
But if it got the quantities right, it should be that it should be a pretty it should be a pretty short hop to get the locations right.
Yeah, we can say based upon what you know and have just written, give us the locations involved with the quantity fulfillment or something like that. Okay, so it is nice. I mean, it is nice that oh, see, this is sort by. There is no sort by. This is, I
Okay.
think this it invented a DAX a DAX function.
It'll do that occasionally. It'll do that occasionally. And I think what's going to happen is over time, what they're going to start doing is, or they'll basically be able to provide a way for us to do it, which is to say, okay, they'll create a verifier loop, which is say, okay, every function that you include, check against DAX.guide. And if it's not in DAX.guide, go back and rewrite your DAX.
Yeah, so
So,
what we can do, well, let's go ahead and I think we can fix that through prompting because one, we want the locations involved. And
yep.
then we can tell it that, hey, there is no sort by function in DAX. All right, so let's give this another whirl. Okay, so given what you know so far, we really want the measure to return the list of locations involved in the fulfillment of the sales orders. Um, Also, there is no sort by function in DAX. Please only use DAX functions that are found. I don't know what URL do we want to give it, the official or the SQL BI reference
Um,
DAX.
yeah, it does have web it does have web awareness, so we can use the we can use DAX either one. I typically like the organization of DAX.guide.
All right, we use DAX.guide. Yeah, it should make it a lot easier. It just has to read this whole thing and boom.
Yeah.
That are found at the following URL. There we go. Are you ready to hit enter? This
Let's
time
give
I'm
it a
leaving.
go.
Okay. It's always interesting to watch it just think.
Oh, the other thing you can do is if you hit that drop down arrow, it'll show you what it's thinking. Now, this isn't supposedly this is kind of a high level summary version that for proprietary reasons they didn't want to give away. But there's a Chinese model, one of the first ones that's a competitor in this kind of large reasoning model, and the Chinese model just is verbose as can be. It just spews out everything it's thinking. It's kind of fun to watch actually.
Oh yeah, so it's see concatenate X to compile a list of the specific locations. So it's figured that out.
Yep.
I love how it goes through and explains everything too. That's the crazy part. It's like this is what I'm doing.
And the thing that's really the thing that AI is great at is you can take a super complex measure, throw that into the prompt and ask it to explain what it's doing, and it gives a great explanation.
I can just copy the code here. All right, attempt number two.
And I mean, the funny thing about this is, some people say, well, if you have to reprompt, then it's no good. And
Ah,
my view is how many people on earth do you think could get this? How many experts, top-notch DAX experts, could get this measure right on the first try?
I did not. It took me on many, many attempts to get this correct.
And so it's like, there have been times when it takes like two or three prompts to get a really tough one. And my view is you're still way, way ahead of the game. Um,
If
even
we
if,
could solve this on this call, Brian, it's probably a 20th of the amount of time that I spent working on this problem.
yeah. And my guess is, there's only a handful of people who are going to be able to solve this in DAX at all.
Yeah, so I don't know. This is the kind of results I was getting. They didn't make any sense to me. Like what it was. So it does. So it gets the 16, 17, L24, L29, 30, L4, 43, 44, but there's only 28 order quantity. Like is it not respecting the A1 code? Like these are the fulfillment locations for the entire order or something. I don't know what it's doing, but
Oh,
this is the
okay.
type
Okay.
of
So
stuff that I was getting back.
that is, that's a really great point. So we have to prompt it to basically respect the slicers because it's got no knowledge of those filters.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense to me. All right. Well, okay, so that's that. So let's see if we can prompt it once again. We'll give it another try here. Let's
And
see.
typically, my approach on this is as long as it's making progress, and particularly in cases where it's partially my fault because I'm not being as clear as I could in the prompting, I I will basically continue iterating with it until it basically I have a three strikes rule that if I have the best prompt that I can develop and it fails to make progress on three successive attempts, I call time of death and say it can't solve this one. Um,
All right, let's
but
see here. So,
as long as it's making progress and seems to be advancing toward a solution, I keep at it.
all right. Okay, so let's see here. The last measure did return location codes, but we need the measure to respect a slicer on the page where we have selected only a single item code. What do you think?
So for purposes of this one, we want to have that item code be A1. But then
Okay.
we also wanted to basically consider all orders. Is that right?
Yeah. We want to consider all orders, but only the A1 item code. How's that?
That's perfect.
Because we can always, even if it hard codes A1 into the measure, we can always replace that with just a max of the item code, right? That's an easy replacement.
And one thing to keep in mind when you're doing these long iterations is that it only has a certain amount of context memory. And so what'll happen sometimes is as you keep iterating, the BIM file prompting that you did early will kind of fade out of memory. And so what you have to do sometimes is reprompt the BIM to make sure that it's respecting the data model.
Oh yeah, so actually it did it for us. It's selected item code, selected value item code, selected value sales order number. So we'll have to fix that. We should be able to just Mm, well, okay. I mean, yeah, that's not going to work because we told it that we wanted all the item codes. Selected item code and order less than or equal to order number. Oh, less than or equal to order number. That's interesting. So we could less than or equal to order number. So if we replace this one line of code with max order number, that should work. I think that'll work. Let's try. Let's give it a whirl. I keep opening up the wrong file here. New measure. Oh no, that'll work. Well, because it's no. Let's use it the way it is
Let's
because
just the way it is. Yeah.
it'll get the order number from the table visualization. So give it a try. Oh, we already used it. All right, here we go. We're from locations two. Wait, I went and messed up here. I want this one. All right, let's. I'm getting confused. There's too many names here. This is mine, right? That's mine. Okay. Then this we want this one. So L1, L11, L16, L17. Okay, that's okay. L23, L28, L30, L46. So I agree, but there's only 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are all, that's like 64. It's almost like it combined. It took, it's so weird. It's like it skipped this one and started here, but it knew that this one exists. You know what I'm saying? Why? I don't know why it's not this one should be first, this order number.
Well, okay. Let's ask it that. Let's ask it. Let's say the measure you provided does not address um the order quant. I'll go back to the table for just a sec. The measure you provide. So what it's failing to address the the it's failing to address order number one.
Yeah, yeah. Because it should have this it looks correct to me, right? It's 38. I've got four, eight, item bins. That's 32. Plus it's gonna pick another eight item bin where that is going to be, it's gonna leave it two left. And then, well, that's interesting. My measure, for whatever reason, that L28 should have fallen. Oh no, it was L16. So it did this one, this one, this one, this one, eight. It used six out of L16, and then the other two were used here in this one. So that's how that's going. That's how that's going on. So I mean, my measure seems correct to me. At least it's hard to debug this thing to the point and prove that it's 100% correct in all cases. I never got to that point, Brian, but I did enough checking where it's like, okay, it looks feasible. All right. So it's not doing first in, first out.
Right, right. So
Is not fulfilling each individual order in a FIFO manner. Should I tell it what it did wrong?
I typically try not to do that because I want to kind of take the position of somebody who is, who is kind of maybe high beginner, to intermediate and not assume that that person has expert knowledge. So I typically in the corrective prompts, I typically try to make those just pretty observational. I don't speculate as to why I think the measure isn't working.
All right. So go ahead and hit enter here.
Yeah.
And we may have to call it whether it gets it or not, Brian. We may have to call it a day because I don't want to. We're already past 6 o'clock, and I don't want to burn up too much of your time, man.
No, no, I'm in for the long haul on this one. So I want to see if we can get it. So I'm happy to go as long as you want to go, or until we call time of death on O1P on this one.
It seems to be really thinking about it.
Yeah, this one you can tell is taxing it because that the amount of thinking time it spends is directly correlated to the difficulty of the problem.
Well, I'm
Um,
glad it's difficult for it because it was difficult for me. I can tell you. This one was like, what was the one that the Cthulhu? When I first coded Cthulhu, that I said it almost drove me insane. It was that one, and then the other one that really drove me crazy was Trim Mean. I think Trim Mean. I actually stepped away from the problem, laid down on my bed face first, and just I had to just like clear my head out when I was first trying to solve Trim Mean. That problem drove me crazy.
do you ever have these ones where you'll like fall asleep working on it and you'll wake up and you'll know how to do it?
That was pretty much Trim Mean. It
Yeah.
was. It was exactly. I stepped away from it, and then I'm like, and I was almost ready to give up on it. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to call it an impossible task. And
I mean,
then,
the thing that's really interesting, I don't know if you ever looked at it, but it actually created an incredibly brilliant no calculate DAX version of Cthulhu in terms of kind of a construct I've never seen before. And it's fast and it's really compact. And I was kind of blown away by, how creative the solution was.
so it created a calculated column 5 foot from that's interesting. May have to give that a try. And then it created a measure. Alternative measure of calc column is not preferred. Well, let's try the measure. Then we can try the column. I've never had it spit out a column for me.
I've only had to do that in optimization. There are times it'll say, if you're willing to do some pre-calculation, you can really speed this up.
Well, I bet you could with this one. Although we know what certain people will think that they should never create calculated columns ever. Just joking. I mean, this is really something that an ERP system should be doing for you, right?
In terms of managing the inventory.
I don't know. I
All
can't
right.
get every time that I did this, Brian, it would skip orders and I couldn't understand why. I could never
So
understand.
let's ask it that. Let's say, that basically this measure now, leaves order one and order two blank. Why is that? See if
All
it can
right.
diagnose its own measure.
This latest measure leaves orders order number 1 and 2 blank. Why is that?
I mean, it actually seems like we're pretty damn close here because if we can solve this problem, it seems like it's getting the right in and out. It's just not applying it to the correct orders.
Yeah, I agree with you. It looks to me, if we revisit this, it's using the right bins first.
Yes.
Definitely using the right bins first. So, but it seems like it's using, you know what it looks like it's doing? It looks like it's saying, oh, I want to use all the eights first. So it fulfills all these orders with these bins. That's what it's doing.
Yes.
And then it's moving on. But see, then it goes to the order 4 and it uses them again. It uses L1, L12, L13, L14 again. I I can't
What,
figure out what its logic
what's
is.
the first line which it starts using L16 at?
This one.
And is that correct in terms of
That
the
is correct. That's the first time that I use it.
okay, okay. So
I've already used
we may want to go back and look at the prompt because we may be inadvertently prompting it to basically group the eights, group the sevens.
right.
Let's see what the answer it gave us in terms of why it's doing this.
Okay, so this like it pumped out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty verbose.
Okay, so issue explanation. The primary reason why orders number 2 and 2 are returning blanks is due to incorrect use of context when calculating cumulative inventory allocations. Use of earlier in calculated columns. Well, we're not using calculated column. Here's the corrected calculated column. Maybe we need to use. What are we using?
Let's try the calculate column for and see if we get that, then we can transition from the correct calculated column to the correct measure.
All right, which one of the calculated columns do you want to use? This final the final one?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Item code. Yeah, let's give it a try. So I want to be in sales orders. I want to have a new column.
This will give us a real clue as to what it's thinking in terms of what information it thinks will be useful.
Okay, so they only okay. So well, I'm gonna hit enter. Fulfillment locations column. I know I don't have anything called that. This might take a while, Brian. This is doing it for all sales orders for all items. I don't know. Okay, well, all right. It seemed to insufficient inventory. Okay, so let's filter this down to A1. L44, L19, L3. Okay, so we need to be able to, so that's order number 10. Okay, it did it in reverse order. Maybe that's what it's doing. It's fulfilling 10 first and then
Oh, okay. So maybe what we need is a numeric order of fulfillment column.
so this measure was L1. Well, this measure was wrong even if it was filling A10 first. But I've got, so let's see what the column, let's see. I should be able to just add the column in here, right? Oh, why did, first. Let's see. L44. No, that doesn't make any sense. It should
Insufficient.
be L16, L6. Yep, those are all eights. L46. For whatever reason, it wants to fulfill order number 3 first every time. And I
Let,
don't know.
let's ask it the order in which it's fulfilling it, the order yeah, the order in which it's calculating fulfillment.
What is the order in which you are calculating fulfillment? I told you this was a good one, Brian.
It's a good one.
Process orders sequentially. Calculation starts with the earliest order, order number 1, and proceeds to see, it says it's doing it, but it's not. It's because how okay, if you're processing order number 1 first, then how are you getting insufficient inventory?
Let's ask it that.
Then if you are fulfilling order number equals one first, and then the rest of the orders, then why does your calculated column return insufficient inventory for order number one when there is sufficient inventory to fulfill other orders? Riddle me this, ChatGPT.
I mean,
Now,
one of
now
the
I
things
gotta
I'm
say, Brian, I gotta say, Brian, I have had resounding success with this in every other instance that I've used it, except for this problem.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm kind of thinking that the way we may want to kind of reattack this one. I'm not ready to give up on this by any stretch. I think it can get this. What we may want to do is we may want to simplify the data set so that we know what it's doing. Because at this point, like I'm having a hard, I haven't worked on this problem, really in any rigorous way, and so I don't really have an intuition of, why it's getting what it's getting, and you said even, it's hard to check it given the complexity of the data set. I'm I'm wondering if maybe what we do first is kind of create a simplified version, see if it can solve that, and then extend it to a more difficult one.
I'm all for it. But I mean, so we'll try this one, and then what we'll do then, that'll be a good exercise, where we can, all right, if this doesn't work, we'll go out and well, I'll have you on again, and we'll give this a second go after we've kind of simplified it down to its brass tacks.
But I think this is,
If
I
you're
think this
willing to
is,
come on again.
yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I love this stuff. I can go all day on this kind of thing. But
And we're
I
still,
think
like
that,
I said, we're still less than an entire weekend into this, so I think we're doing okay.
right. A- And the thing is, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I think we're not that far off.
I think it seems like it's pretty fairly close. New column. Just the fact that you can get this thing to spit out this much complex DAX code, regardless of it, whether it's right or wrong, is pretty impressive,
Yeah.
to be honest. And it works perfectly with the data model. I mean, there's something to be said about that. Okay, yep, you're correct. It is column two.
And then the other thing is it's remarkably good as once we've got a working measure, it is really good at optimizing.
Okay, this looks promising, potentially, other than the fact that it doesn't have sufficient for four, but it does for five, six, and seven. But
Okay, so I'm wondering if is it is it going insufficient when it hits a break point between like the eights and the sevens?
yeah, I don't know. So let's see here. Which one? I'm kind of concerned about whether it's a column because everything's randomized. But well, if it does randomize it, then it'll recalculate the column. So it should be fine. 24, 30. Oh, that's it. So 24, 40, 30, 10. That's agrees with my A1,
All
where
right.
but then it starts to go haywire because it fulfills the next one with the same four bins. And they should be used up, right? So, but we did get the correct first right answer right there.
But then in the third bin, it gets it right.
Yeah. Oh, in this measure all of a sudden became better. I'm not sure what changed there, but one of the early measures that we created, it it seems it's doing it whatever logic it's using the exact same incorrect logic pretty much. Interesting. You see that? Now this measure that we were using from I think it was one of the latest measures we used, but it's using the same incorrect logic. It's repeating these two when it should have used up the inventory. It's throwing in this insufficient inventory here, but then it calculates this one, this one, this one. Interesting.
And
So
here's
it's
here's
being
the thing
consistent.
is I think what we need to be able to do is I think we need to be able to simplify this data set to the point where we can diagnose what it's doing and see if that is an artifact of the way we've prompted it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not willing to rule out that we're the problem here, Brian.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, it's a hard problem to describe, and we may not. It may be giving us the correct answer to the wrong question.
Right. Yep, you're absolutely right. I'm gonna do, Brian, is I'm gonna take this and probably over the weekend, I gotta write an Asana connector or get ChatGPT to do it for me. But then I'm gonna create a really simplified version of this problem with like just a few something that is we can obviously check and say this is the right answer, this is not the right answer, and be able to hopefully figure out where it's losing its where we're not prompting it correctly to solve the problem.
I
Because I
mean,
really think
it may be us or it may be it. You know, it's like I haven't the blame is indeterminate at this point, but I know I don't understand at least on site the problem well enough to say where it's going off the rails.
well, the nice thing is if I create the model kind of the same way with the same names and everything else, in theory, right, we can just once it gets it right on the simplified version, we should be able to transfer it over here and have it solve the complicated one.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey man, do you have anything else you want to talk about? I think this has been super helpful for me. Just because I've realized my total lack of prompt engineering that I need to get way better at this and the techniques around prompting this thing. Regardless of whether this came out correct or not, we got a lot further, I feel like, on this one going down this route, and I feel a lot better about it than like my weak attempts at prompting. Tell you that.
It makes a big difference. You know, I mean, it's interesting because you'll read a lot these days that says, oh, these models are getting so good that prompting doesn't matter that much. And that's generally true. But for this kind of specific multi-step problem, you really still need to prompt these things to to the hilt.
Well, awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Brian, and I appreciate you spending an hour or so this evening. It's dark out. It's on the East Coast now. I know you're on the same time zone as I am over there in Washington D.C. I'm in Ohio. It gets dark early, so
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate you
dark at like
spending.
4:30 here, so you bet that's not going to stop me. But yeah, I'm really curious to see, because as I say, so far O1P is undefeated, that I've not been able to find I've been searching high and low for really tough problems that are not within its training set. And I have yet to find one it's not been able to solve. So this would be interesting either way. I think if we can figure out that the problem is us and the prompting, that's interesting. And if we figure out that it's not, that this is one that it's not able to solve, because one of the things that, you know, I don't know if you read Ethan Mollick's stuff on LinkedIn. He's kind of the guru of kind of AI these days. He's a professor at Wharton, and he does some of the most interesting experiments. And one of the things he says is you want to keep a comprehensive list of the AI can't do this, because he said that is a great way to measure evolution over time. Is okay. So if we determine, hey, we prompted this thing properly, and it just went face down in the mud, and it couldn't do it. it'll be really interesting to keep that list and then say, okay, when O1 production comes out, can that one solve it? When O2 comes out, or when the Chinese model gets better, can that one solve it? Supposedly Amazon's now they've got in the game with a frontier model. So this is kind of the competitive testing I've been doing, which is kind of taking the hardest stuff I can find and throwing it at all the best models and seeing how it does.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean it's either right, it's either a failure of us prompting it. It's a failure of the model to understand the problem and model it correctly, or it's a failure of its understanding of DAX, right? I mean it's one of those three, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
I mean,
Now,
so it's got to be one of them.
do you I mean, if you're willing to keep going, I'm willing to go too. What we could do is we could throw this exact same prompt at Claude and see if Claude Sonnet solves it. Because that's the other one. Even though it's not a large reasoning model, it's a large language model. It typically takes a few more iterations, but it is a smart model, and it's been cracking these difficult problems. Really is kind of the number two behind O1P. So we could, if we wanted to, we could throw this at Claude and see if Claude does better.
Well, that's how about we call that for another session, Brian?
All right.
I don't want to burn your whole evening, man. And I have like laundry and stuff to do.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, to be continued. To be continued.
To be continued. So hopefully I'll see you. Hopefully we can get together before Christmas. I don't know and what your
Yeah.
schedule looks like, but usually my schedule kind of frees up kind of around the holidays and things like that, believe it or not. So hopefully if I don't see you before Christmas, Merry Christmas and all of that.
You too.
But I really appreciate you coming on, Brian, and we will revisit this topic. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
Yeah. So yeah, I've definitely got time over the next few weeks, so we can. I think we can try to find a time, and I'm dying to see how the story ends.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. It's been a great learning experience for me. So I'll I'll talk to you next time. All right.
All right. Thanks, Greg.